Some of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they move out here to Denver, Colorado and buy a home have nothing to do with things like price, interest rates, or even the house itself. They're actually these small local details that they don't find out about until it's too late. So in this video today, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 3 very specific and things that only locals really know about to hopefully save you guys a headache and make sure when you do decide to move out here, you make those right decisions. I'm really excited to share this with you guys on a brand new episode of Living in Denver. Let's go. All right, guys, as I said, today's gonna be all about these 3 very specific local tips that you're really gonna wanna know about, especially if you're considering moving out here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Before we get started, all that info that's popping up here on the screen, if you have any questions when you're going through today's video, feel free to reach out. I'm an open book. I'm a 42-year Colorado and Denver native. I love connecting, so feel free to do so. And with that, let's just jump right into the first of these 3, which is a big one. And I'm telling you guys, I've made this mistake before and man, I will not make it again. And that is buying a home, or maybe you're just considering renting at first, but wherever you're gonna be living out here, make sure that your driveway is south facing. I know that sounds kind of strange. Like, what do you mean, Adam, a south facing driveway? Well, Colorado, at least in normal winters, we have a lot of snow. This year, as I'm filming this video right now, it's actually February 2026, and I've been wearing shorts a few days this past week because of how warm it's been. We actually just set a record. We've had the most 60-degree and above days this winter that we've ever had since they've been recording that data. Like, I don't know how long it's been, over 50 years, I believe. So just crazy. So this year, this specific tip hasn't been quite as important, but on typical winters, this is very important. And again, that south-facing driveway, the whole reason for this, the importance of it, is because of the sunshine. So as you can imagine, when you're looking outside your house at your driveway, if you're in an area that's facing south, you're gonna get a lot more of that southern exposure, which will keep your driveway warmer, help melt that snow faster, and just be a lot easier all around. Not only are you gonna have to get out there less and not have to shovel nearly as much, but I think the bigger piece of this tip is actually what happens when you don't have a south-facing driveway, and the worst of all of them is a north-facing driveway. So I had a north-facing driveway in a home a few years ago that I had. It wasn't in Denver. I was actually living up in the Aspen Valley, in Roaring Fork Valley it's called, and I was in an area called Carbondale. If you guys aren't familiar with that part of Colorado, man, you're missing out. Definitely put that on your bucket list. That's my favorite part of the entire state. So really, really cool area to check out. But I had a home in Carbondale and it was north facing for the driveway. And what was such a pain about it was when you'd get these big storms, in a typical day, you know, the snow would melt and just get a lot of sun exposure. Well, with those north-facing driveways and with the short days in general with sunlight, you know, by 4 in the afternoon, the sun's already setting. Well, what happens is it turns into this just kind of non-stop process of the snow. If you don't get it off the driveway immediately, it'll melt a bit, but then it'll refreeze. And this creates this huge extra layer of nothing but just solid ice. So my house up in Carbondale, I actually had a few times where this had happened, where it took me over a month to finally get my driveway cleared. And I know that sounds maybe ridiculous, but I was out there literally with an axe and just like a pick, just trying to break up that ice enough where then I could get it out of there. But you can also just kind of imagine how heavy it is when you're just dealing with these solid blocks of ice. So huge pain, never make that mistake again. So I wanted to start off with a really, really good tip for you guys, which is, again, try and find a home that has a south-facing driveway. Now, before we move on, I also just want to share one other tip, another just little side note. With most places in Denver, so if you buy a single family home in Denver, oftentimes what's going to happen is you're going to be required by the city to also maintain your sidewalk if you have a public right-of-way, a sidewalk in front of your house. They actually have some rules where if there's over, I think it's 4 inches of snow, you're really supposed to have that cleared within, I think it's 24 hours. So what happens sometimes though is, you know, everybody's got a lot of stuff going on these days. You might be out of town for the weekend, yet you get a big snowstorm at your house. Well, it's really if you can, at least it's really required by, whether or not they're actually going to hold you to this, but to have that sidewalk still cleared. So, you can just imagine, some homes, this can really be a pain if you're in and out of town a lot. So not only just the driveway, but sometimes even just being on a south-facing home where you have the sidewalks in front of your house also south-facing, this is even more of a win-win. Also, if you guys are in a HOA, homeowner association, oftentimes that will include snow removal. However, it can really depend on the subdivision that you're in. And for example, I had a house in Sloan Lake, which is one of my favorite parts of Denver. And in that neighborhood, it was called East Bay. I was required to do the snow removal still, even though my HOA covered it. They only covered it if we had more than 4 inches of snow. So still, 3 inches of snow is a lot of snow for people to be walking and, dealing with. So you still want to clear it, if it is under 4 inches. And in that case, it'll still be your responsibility, the homeowner. So just another little tip to share with you guys when it comes to how important south-facing driveways are. And really quick also, guys, down below, go ahead and just go to denverwebinar.com if you want more tips just like this. I do these weekly home buyer webinars. They're live, they're online, they're free, and we just dive into a lot of stuff, including some other tips kind of like this that are really helpful as you might be considering Denver as your next home base. So we'd love to see you guys on that next one. But now let's just jump right into the second local tip, which is just as important as this first one. And the second tip is going to be all about garage space. And I'll throw in storage space just in case maybe you aren't looking at homes that have a lot of garage space or maybe any garage. But the real point that I want to make here is something that I see happen so often, and I'd love to just kind of get ahead of it by sharing it with you guys today. So what happens all the time when I'm dealing with buyers and maybe people like yourselves that are just, in the early stages of considering moving out here to Denver, Colorado, is back home, whatever state you're currently in, maybe you have a partner that you live with and you guys each have a car and you have a 2-car garage, one garage space for each of your cars. Well, that's great in most areas around the country, but in Colorado, hopefully one of the reasons why you're considering coming out here is because we have so many incredible outdoor activities and hobbies, sports to get involved in. I've just always loved that about Colorado. It's probably one of my favorite things about living here is how every year, and even more, dialing this down even more, every season, you can have new activities to get involved in. As we go into the spring here coming up, new activities like maybe getting back on the road bike and going cycling. Maybe it's going mountain biking. Maybe it's going hiking in the mountains. Maybe it's skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, paddleboarding. I could talk 10 minutes on different fun activities that you can do throughout the year here in Colorado. What happens though is people that move out here, they're as excited as anybody to start getting involved in all this fun stuff. And a lot of this fun stuff, unfortunately, requires space to store the stuff. Skis, bikes, kayak, all of this stuff needs to go somewhere. And oftentimes it needs to go in your garage because there's no better place to put it. So what ends up happening is somebody that maybe is used to having a 2-car garage in another state will come out here, they'll buy a 2-car garage, a home that has a 2-car garage out here, and all of a sudden, man, they can only fit 1 car in the garage because of all their fun activity stuff that's taking up space in that second slot. So what I always recommend, if possible, is having a home that has either an extended 2-car garage as an example, or also called an oversized 2-car garage, or maybe even bump it up one to have a 3-car garage, even if you only have 2 cars. So this is just something that is, it sounds basic, it sounds kind of like a no-brainer, but man, it is one of the most common things that I hear about from people that move out here is, man, Adam, I love the house that I bought, but I just wish I had more garage space, wish I had more storage space. Well, a best way to really just nip this in the butt from day one is just finding homes that are really accommodating to this and just have more space to store your stuff. So there's also different types of garage setups. If you guys ever are starting to seriously look at homes out here, feel free to reach out. I can share a couple specific kind of strategies to identify homes that have these, because sometimes what will end up happening is you'll see a home that just looks like a 1-car garage, but oftentimes what they're doing now, especially in homes that have longer lots but maybe a little bit narrow, is they'll have what's called a tandem parking garage, tandem parking spaces. And what this means is it's just a 1 single garage door, but the length of the garage is double. So you could actually still fit 2 cars, but if you're the first car in the garage, to get out, you're gonna have the other car get out first so then you can get out. It's not the most ideal setup for some people, but it's great specifically for people that maybe only have one car, but they want that additional space for storage. I actually just helped some family, friends of mine, buy a house out here in Denver last year, and that's exactly what they had. They found this great home in Denver that had a tandem parking space in the garage where they had all this extra, room for Christmas decorations and their mountain bikes and camping gear, all that stuff. So I know I'm kind of long-winded here, but I just really wanted to make that clear to you guys as well, how important it is just to find a home that has that additional space. And that way, you guys are going to be able to keep doing all the fun activities, as well as have enough room in the garage to maybe pick up a couple new ones in the next season. So really excited to have you guys hopefully understand this to a point where you don't make that same mistake that a lot of other people do. All right, and then last but not least, this third local tip that is something that so many people just really come back in a couple years and say, for example, I'll reach out to my past clients and just ask them how they're doing, and it's something that obviously I become great friends with a lot of my clients, and as I talk to them a couple years down the road, sometimes they say, Adam, I love the house, I love the neighborhood, I love all this stuff about where we live now, but the one thing is it's just we don't get up to the mountains as often as we thought we would, and it's because of the location of the home within Denver. It's not the road going up to the mountains that's maybe an inconvenience. It's just the time that it takes to get through Metro Denver, especially at certain points during the day. And I'll use this as an example. Let's say that you're, a Monday to Friday type worker, and you still want to get up and do things on the weeknights after work, especially in the summer months where it's light out until almost 9 o'clock at night. Well, if you live in areas like, let's just say, Southeast Aurora, or maybe even in the Denver specific area, like downtown Denver and the surrounding neighborhoods, well, just to get out to the western side of town, it could take 30 minutes or longer just to fight traffic and just to get over to the western side of town to places like Morrison, even going to Red Rocks, Amphitheater, Golden. There's so many great places on the western side of town that still can easily be jump off points for hiking and mountain biking, all these fun activities. But on a weeknight, dealing with all that traffic, it's something that people might do once or twice, and then they get so sick of just dealing with the headache that they end up not going up to the mountains or just to these western side of town, the foothills, nearly as much as they expected to. And there's a great way just to avoid this, and that's by identifying these neighborhoods that are a little bit more on the western side of town. And speaking just kind of personally here, I grew up in the western side of town my entire life. I've always been on this side of Denver. I went to Wheat Ridge High School, grew up in Wheat Ridge, which is west of downtown Denver. And I also actually live now in Southwest Littleton, this great area called Grant Ranch. And one of the reasons I've always wanted to continue to live on this western side of town is because of dealing with all that traffic to get to the mountains on the, weekday afternoon or even on the weekends, like Saturday morning to go skiing. When you're on that side of town, on the western side, it's just so much easier to get up there, and it becomes a lot more achievable on a regular basis. And let's be honest here, that's why so many of us live in Colorado, is to enjoy the outdoors and all the fun, great stuff that goes along with it. And you want to make sure that you live in a place where that's very easily done. It's achievable. And man, a lot of people just end up, that's one of the biggest regrets I hear, is that they love where they live, as far as they love their home, they love maybe the school district that they're in, they love all their neighbors, but they just aren't getting up to the mountains as often as they'd like to. So a few areas that I would really recommend if you guys are somebody that maybe I'm speaking your language here and you really want to have that access that's readily available 7 days a week, I would check out areas like Golden, Wheat Ridge, Arvada, as well as maybe looking a little bit to the south in places like, for example, where I'm at in southwestern Littleton. And also one of my favorite neighborhoods is really cool. It's called Ken Carroll, and there's specifically an area in there called North Ranch. And that's this other little kind of hidden gem, a little secret spot that I'm guessing maybe you guys don't even know about yet, but it is one of my all-time favorites in an area that I would love to live in someday. So just wanted to share that little bonus tip for you, any of you guys that are still watching that stuck around till the end of this video. So Ken Carroll and North Ranch at Ken Carroll, those are some awesome spots to check out that are basically in the mountains. You're not way up high in elevation, but you've got mountains surrounding you because you're on this western side of town. And it's not just about the access, it's also about other stuff. It's a little bit more just scenic. It's a little bit prettier. It's also a little bit better for wildlife. That North Ranch area, when I had a home that I was selling a couple years ago over there, we had bear, mountain lion, deer, elk. I mean, that's just in the Denver neighborhood of that Ken Carroll area. We're not even talking about driving up to the mountains to see these animals. That was right there. So, there's so much of that available for people that do live on the western side of town. So that might be really important for you guys to know about and just to be aware of if you are considering Denver and just not sure where in Denver might best fit your needs. Before we close this one out, guys, I thought of one other thing I just want to share with you guys. If you go to adamsillsdenver.com, it's just my website, I have this interactive map, and there's over 20 of the different neighborhoods all around Denver that you can click on, and it'll just give you all this additional info, demographics, as well as the type of homes that are maybe located in that area, the proximity to the mountains, the proximity to the airport, to downtown Denver, all that stuff. And if you're not that familiar yet with Denver, this is just a great starting point where you can start to understand, just where some of these spots are that maybe I've mentioned tonight or today that you haven't heard of yet. So check that out. And then last but not least, also, every single month I do live, free, they're Denver homebuyer webinars. So they're online. I'd love to see you guys on the next one. So I'll also put that info down below, or you can just go to denverwebinar.com, where I share a lot of stuff just like this, as well as more specific strategies on how to win in the Denver real estate market today in 2026. So excited to share all that with you guys. Hopefully you guys end up checking it out. And if you do, and you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat one-on-one. But with that, let's just close this video out. So again, let's recap the 3 local tips that I think are really, really important. They might seem a little bit basic, but you know what? They're so commonly talked about that that's why they're still important to share with the other viewers like yourselves that maybe don't know about it yet. So once again, number 1, south-facing driveways are a lifesaver. It sounds simple, but I'll tell you what, don't make the mistake that I did. Make sure it's south-facing, or at least avoid anything that's north-facing. That's number 1. Number 2, make sure you understand that all these fun activities do take up space with all the equipment and gear that you're going to be getting. So an extra garage space, or at least some additional space in your house for storage, is so important. Please don't make that mistake. Make sure you guys find a home that has plenty of storage for all of your fun stuff. And then last but not least, number 3, understanding that to really get out and enjoy Denver's outdoor amenities, the western side of Denver and the foothills and all of the great stuff that goes along with it. If that's important to you, try and find a neighborhood that's on the western side of town. And really when I say western side of town, just anything that's to the west of downtown Denver. Or another way to think of it is the main interstate that runs north to south here in Colorado, in Denver especially, is I-25. And Interstate 25 is a really good indication on the map. So if you're anywhere to the west of that, that's going to be saving you quite a bit of time when it comes, 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon and you're ready to go up to the mountains for a quick hike or a bike ride. Being on that side of I-25, on that western side, that'll really save you a lot of time, a lot of headache, and just make it so much easier to still get out there and enjoy all that this beautiful state has to offer, especially here in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I look forward to sharing a brand new episode with you next time on Living in Denver. I'll see you guys then.